always say it's a four-letter word, but it's not a dirty word. Ask for help. Be willing to ask for help. Hi, everyone. I'm Nadine Cornish, and I want to welcome you to another episode of Caregiving Gumbo. It's a hot mess. And I am excited today, as always, to have my cohorts, Miss Al-Nisa Berry, on board with me today. Welcome,
Hello,
Al-Nisa.
everyone. Thank you, Nadine. It's a pleasure to be here. Another exciting episode waiting to happen. We're going to do this.
Exactly. So today we are diving right into it. We are talking about why it's okay to be a hot mess on the caregiving journey. So, Elnisa, I know you can tell us a thing or two about perfection. I know you can tell us a thing or two about wanting to be the extraordinary, exceptional caregiver, right?
Yes.
That is so, it tends to be inherent in so many caregivers, right? Caregivers, people who take pride in what it is that they do, wanting to do and provide the best possible care. So, what's your thought when we say, it's okay to be a hot mess?
Great question, Nadine. The first thing that comes to mind when I think of that is acceptance. Acceptance of yourself, acceptance of the situation, acceptance that we have absolutely no control over what is happening. And it takes a lot. It takes a toll, it's a drain, and we are not trying to be superhuman people who believe we can do it all. And for me, it was reconciling that within myself because it was a lot to deal with. And no one was telling me that it was okay to be a hot mess. The expectations were still there. The things that I was supposed to do, everyone was looking at me to do. And I felt if I couldn't do it, that was falling short until I realized it is not possible without support and help, encouragement, assistance. And one person cannot do it all, or I would break in half.
Okay, wow. You said so much there. So, first, the recognition that you simply can't do it all, right? And Tears in My Gumbo, we talk about how important it is to recognize that caregiving is a community venture. It's a community venture, and we got into it real heavy in the Families Not Showing Up episode, right? We got into recognizing and understanding that ultimately the people we expect to show up may not, but to be open, to be welcoming, I should say, and open to the fact that there are other people in your world, if you're willing to look around, that will show up for you, that will be there. Oftentimes, it's people you least expect. And so, that awareness that you can't do it by yourself, that help is necessary. I always say it's a four-letter word, but it's not a dirty word. TLP, ask for help. Be willing to ask for help. And a lot of times, in our self sufficiency and in this ideal that we create for ourselves around the fact that we should be able to do all that needs to be done, the fact that we are accustomed to being capable and competent and independent and doing what it is that we do. But recognizing that on this journey, we get to change, we get to shift from what we're accustomed to doing to what is necessary for survival, what is necessary for our own mental health and sanity. And we literally get to shift and get to determine that, we're going to redefine what this caregiving journey is going to look like. We're going to redefine how we're showing up, but recognize that showing up alone and showing up exclusively to do it all by ourselves is really something that we're going to bless and release. right? That ideal,
Absolutely.
right? The
Yes.
ideal. Yes. And so, Al-Nisa, tell me, what do you say to the person that's like Al-Nisa or that's like Nadine in terms of letting go of that, right? Because it's one thing to hear it, it's one thing to say, well, this is what I had to do, but how did you do it? How did you come to grips with the fact that you're not going to be perfect? You're not going to know everything. It's impossible to know everything.
That's another great question. How do I? Because I kept falling on my face,
Okay.
basically. Each
Mm-hmm.
time that I tried and it didn't work like I wanted it to work, each time that I would hold on and try and control every situation, it would fail. It was not working. And doing that over and over, it came to me, stop. How much are you going to how often are you going to continue to do the same thing? And you see that it's not working, you're going to need to let it go and not allow others who are placing these expectations on me to have me to feel ashamed or guilty or less than or inferior because of it was okay to let go within myself. It was the commentary when I chose to do that that made it much more difficult. And I had to quiet that commentary.
Okay, all righty. Well, let's talk about that commentary a little bit, right? So, those are the outsiders looking in, right? And typically, they're not the people that are really supporting and really helping. They're the observers, right? And so, observers, they kind of, I find that they talk out of both sides of their mouths. On one hand, they're telling you, oh, you're so good and you're so caring and gosh, you just got it all under control, right? So on one hand they're telling you that, and then on the other hand they're being critical of what you're doing and how you're doing what it is that you're doing. And so it's like recognizing that those are the voices that we need to turn off,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And I've found that simply inviting them, you're more than welcome to come over and I'll give you a day to do this yourself. And, because it's really easy to talk about what should be done and what needs to be done. But if you haven't done it yourself, it's a whole different ball game. But you're more than welcome. I extend an open invitation to you to come in and to spend not even the day, but just spend a few hours doing what it is that I do. Right. And then
Yes.
recognizing because nobody's taking you up on that.
No.
Nobody's going to take you up on that. And if they do, that'd be a pleasant surprise. But no, we're letting you know they're not going to take you up on it. That's good. That is what they're gonna hear, and that is what will quiet them. Because no,
Exactly.
I just want to talk. I don't want to put action behind my words, actually, right? Wow. And so the idea that we're doing the very best that we can, oftentimes on limited resources, limited physical resources. We're exhausted. We're oftentimes burnt out, attempting, especially when we're providing the 24 care, doing the best that we can with all that we know, and yet we still have these naysayers that are in our ears that are kind of sniping at us, telling us that we should do it this way instead of this way, that
Yes.
what we're doing is not enough and that it's not good enough oftentimes as well, right?
Right.
And so, I mean, depending upon your circumstances, sometimes that commentary can be brutal.
And
And
yes.
yeah, and so with the brutal commentary, what what do you think one should do to sort of repel that, to not let that land, and to simply move on in the
Well,
midst of?
for me, it was about setting boundaries.
Mhm.
So when the commentary would get unreasonable in a sense, I had to remove myself from having those type of conversations because it was not helpful. And specifically, when I cared for my mom 24/7, living in her home, I work from home and I still reduced my hours some, but not totally because I still had responsibilities, financial
Absolutely.
responsibilities, and an apartment I was still paying for. And the response that I was getting from the commentary or the corner over here was that I wasn't giving up enough of my life for my mother. I needed to, they're telling me, quit my job
Mm.
and take care of my mother more so
Mm-hmm.
because they know someone else who quit their job so that they can care for your mother. And I said, okay, then how are we going to live? How are we going to
Mm-hmm.
eat? How are we going to
Mm-hmm.
pay these bills if I quit my job, which we needed and have been, and what I was receiving was what I'm doing and the sacrifices that I'm making wasn't enough because I wasn't hurting myself enough.
Mm.
I wasn't
Interesting.
sacrificing enough.
Interesting.
And I
Mm.
refused. And I said, no, I'm not doing that. That is, I'm going to do the best I can with what I have and still hold on to my job and still care for my mother. My mom would be in another room and I would work, get up, put her needs in, make the bread, all the things that she needed and still try and get my work done because I needed my paycheck.
Mm-hmm.
And I distanced myself from those people who told me that I wasn't sacrificing enough.
Hmm. As I was listening to you, it reminded me of a client who had a sibling who had the financial means to basically take care of everything, right? And he wanted his sister to quit her job and he was going to pay her, right? But she didn't want to give up her job because she loved her job and she needed her job as a defect detractor, deflection, as a sanity booster, right? As she juggled the full-time caregiving responsibilities, she needed the job because that was her outlet. That was her only outlet. And she had a sibling who was trying to control her life to the extent that he wanted to pay her to quit her job, and she absolutely refused. And that's where the boundaries come in, right? And I'm so glad you recognize early enough, soon enough, that you had to declare the boundaries and had to determine for yourself. This is what I'm willing to listen to, and this is what I am releasing. I am not going to, I don't have time and space for that energy. I don't have time and space for those suggestions because they do not serve me, right?
Correct.
And so yes, we want to validate and we want to say again that it is okay to be a hot mess during this process. You are oftentimes figuring it out. You are oftentimes winging it. You are oftentimes doing the very best you can with everything that you know. As you tap into resources, as you learn how to navigate this, you can ultimately, gear up to do a better job, to be and find yourself in a better space where you recognize, I'm getting the hang of this. I am getting the hang of this. But it is an ongoing process. Give yourself grace. Give yourself grace through the process. And as we wrap up, I want to remind you that one of the resources that's available to you is our caregiver support group that's available on the first and third Tuesday of the month, Mountain Standard Time. Check out the website, kccares.org, for registration information. But we're glad you joined us today. We're going to continue this discussion. We want to thank Colorado Respite Coalition for making this podcast possible. And again, we want to thank you for taking the time to recognize that as a caregiver, you owe it to yourself to get the support that you need and to be supported by those who understand the journey that you're traveling. Thanks so much. We'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Remember, no matter where you're watching the Caregiving Gumbo podcast, we ask that you comment, like it, share it, and pass it on. This podcast grows through sharing.